Hello and welcome to episode 35 of Things I've Learned from Barry Harris. Today I thought we'd continue with the series of talking about movement, or Barry calls movement. The first episode about movement, which is episode 34, we worked on the 1 major going to the relative minor. Today I thought we would work on the 1 major going to the 6th chord, and most of the time it's 6th dominant chord. So it's a very basic change. It's, if we were in the key of F, it's F major, and then to the 6th chord, so the 6th of F is D. So we'll say D7, because a lot of changes do that, 1 to the 6th dominant chord. So, and then usually after that it goes to the 2 to the 5, or the 2 to 4 minor, whatever it does after that. But let's just focus on the 1 to the 6. And in this episode, I know in a lot of tunes it's just a turn back is usually 2 beats a piece, but sometimes it's also 4 beats a piece. So then you get a full measure of F major and a full measure of D7. So that's a different thing that you have to practice, and feeling the length of time between F major and D7, and then going into G minor to C7. So today, let's take a look at that. So the 2 things you'll need to know: your F major scale up and down to the 3rd of D. And by the 3rd of D, Barry's referring to the 3rd of D7. And since it's a dominant chord, it's going to have a major 3rd. So it's basically F major up and down to the 3rd of D, which is F sharp. So it's going to sound like this. There's that F sharp. So you do it again. Again, as a guitar player, you should be able to do that any place. So wherever you end up on your instrument, you should be able to do that. So before you move on with the episode, make sure you can do that in multiple places on your instrument so that you're comfortable with some of the lines that we're about to introduce. So I want to primarily focus on, for this particular episode, running it down to that 3rd of the D, and then seeing what we can do from the 3rd of D. So let's take some easier phrases and let's see how we can do it. By easy, I mean just things that are pretty obvious. So let's say we start on tonic, the F major, and let's just say, for instance, we run down and we put 1 half step between the 6th and the 5th. So we'll say, so the half step rules for major I've put in previous episodes. You can look them up. But just so you know, so when starting on tonic, running down, descending, 1 half step between 6 and 5. Now when we get to 5, there's a lot of things we can do, but let's just see what happens. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I did, if we remember the rules for 5, 4, 3, 2, which I also left in previous episodes, we did the rule for 4, which would be, after you hit the 4th, you're going to come 2 chromatically to 3. So let's try that. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then maybe I do, since I did 4, the rule for 4, maybe once I get to 3, I'll do the rule for 3. So let's see what that sounds like. The rule for 3 is, after you hit 3, you pivot a triad up from C. So it would be this. Now the reason that we say pivot, again I'll just go over this, is this would be the chord up from the 3rd. So these are the notes. Now I'm going to take this note, and instead of playing the C here, I'm going to jump down and play it an octave lower. So now you got this. We'll say. Which is pretty, and you should know how to pivot chords up your whole scale, which we've done in previous episodes. But yet again, that's another thing. So if that's as far as you can go with it, then stop the video now and say, okay, let me go figure out what he was talking about pivot. But in the meantime, let's take that phrase again. So now we'll start it on the first beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now is where, since I'm already on the, since I'm on the G, I might move down to the F sharp right at that point. So let's see what that sounds like. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, a lot of times, what people do when they get to the third of the dominant, they will come up a diminished. And by diminished, I just mean your 4 notes of your diminished, which is all in minor thirds. So if we put that together, it would be like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then maybe I'll end on the, depending on how you want to look at it, it's the 5th of G or the 2nd of C7. So let's see what that sounds like. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now that's just one example of running F major, doing something pretty on F major, like one of the 5, 4, 3, 2s or whatever, whichever one we're doing, and then running it into the 3rd of D7 where we came up a diminished, and then we ended on a D, which is the 2nd of the C7 or the 5th of the G minor, whichever way you want to look at it. But maybe let's do this. Now what I did there was, I was already thinking, because the next change is G minor to C7, which as we know, Barry just thinks C7. And I just put 2 half steps between 2nd and tonic and flat 7. So now if we put that whole line together, it would sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice phrase. 1, 2, 3, and. Nice phrase. One more time. 3, 4. Now, we could have changed it a lot of different ways. Let's maybe play the same first part, F major. Maybe let's go down to the D. So let's say. After we get to the 3rd, instead of coming to diminished, let's go down to D. So let's say. And then maybe there we'll play the flat 7 after that. So we'll say. So let's see what that sounds like. And the 7th of the D is also the tonic, the C, the tonic of the 5 chord that we're going to, G minor to C7. And we know that the C7, if we start on the tonic and we're descending, we can put 1 half step between tonic and 7. So let's see what that would sound like. And then after I came down to 7, I went up to the 2nd, or, you know, if we're thinking C7. So let's see. Nice phrase. Let's try another one. What if we start? What if we changed it already? And we said, okay, I keep starting right on the first beat. Let's start on the 2nd beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. That time I said, let's see. That time I didn't do 5, 4, 3. I didn't do anything. The only thing I did was put in a half step between 6 and 5 again. So I said 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So I came up a diminished, and then I ended on second, tonic, and flat 7. Let's see. 1, 2 of the C7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Nice one also. But see, that time I didn't have as much time to mess around with F major because I kind of got right to D7 because I started on the second beat. So this sounds complex and like, oh God, you have to know all these different things about where you feel, but it's a feel thing. So you take a thing and you practice it like this. First out of tempo to just feel what it feels like, and then make sure you put it in tempo to see what it feels like. And you try to create your own vocabulary, your own lines. Now let's see, Bud Powell did a thing once. Bud Powell, when you come up with diminished, we were coming up, we played 1, 2, 3, 4. We did 4 notes of the diminished. One time Bud Powell did 6 notes of the diminished. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's see what that sounds like if we did that starting on the second beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. That's also nice. And when I got to the 6th note of the diminished, which was the A, I just came down a whole step to the G, which is the G minor 7, or it's the 5th of the C7. So let's see if I play that right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ah. But see how it triggers you to do other things. So again, that's just taking one little thing, starting on tonic, and running down, putting 1/2 step, and then we did stuff to it. One time, Bird did a thing like, or Bird had a song, but it's in a different key, but that's, I think his intro for Beyond the Blue Horizon, he does something like that. So what that is here's F major. Let's start on the 5th. You hit the note, you play a 1/2 step below, and you go back to the note, and it's right on the beat. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we did it on everything on F major, which would be this. Let's just do from the 5th and the tonic. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see. Okay, let's try. 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's try that one. That was, so the 5th, 1/2 step below, back to the 5th, tonic, 1/2 step below, back to the tonic. But when I got back to this tonic, I came down a 5-note chord. So a chord is play a note, skip a note, 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 play a note. So that's 5 notes. Let's see if that's what I did. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. And then I just played, I went back to 5. Down to the 3rd of D. So let's see. And then I came up just one note, or just play 3, 5 of D7, or you could think diminished. And then I surrounded the G, which is the root for the G minor, or the more important, the 5th for the C7. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. I threw in a 16th note triplet to just kind of make it a little less 8th note-y. So I put the 16th note triplet in between the 5 and the 6. So before I didn't play 4, I didn't play 5 directly to 4. I put in a 16th note triplet, which is kind of easy for guitar to do because we have our hammer-on and pull-offs. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's see. phrase. I mean, I don't think I ever played that before, but it's just the idea of saying, okay, I'm going to make up a phrase that runs from 1 to 6. And then you really practice that and say, okay, can I do that? Let's say here's F. Now, I don't know if I could do this, but let's say, can I do it in B flat? So, B flat. Let's see. There it is in B flat. Well, not very well, but. And then so on. So you take a little thing to feel what it feels like, and you grow on it, and you grow on it. You say, okay, I'm going to expand on it. Now, I think that that phrase is definitely inspired, like you could say it's a Charlie Parker-like phrase. It's definitely inspired from his type of sound. It's definitely a Barry-esque phrase, but Barry's never played that exact phrase, I don't think. It's not like I'm taking it from him. So this is the idea. You take these concepts, you practice these scales to get them into your fingers so that eventually you can make music out of it. Somebody left a comment that said, okay, the scales are great, but now how do you make music out of that? And you know what? That was the perfect question. Because the whole point of all these exercises and all these different things to get them in your hands is to create with them, to make music out of it. So after you feel comfortable with playing the scales through, or playing the scales for the blues, or playing the scales for I Got Rhythm, that's when you say, okay, I have my foundation of where I'm going to pull from. So when I create phrases, I already have the foundation. This is the vocabulary that I'm going to use to make up beautiful sentences or to make